All right, so welcome back. Today I'm going to try something a little different. Today's video is what I'm going to call an audio topic review. So this is not actually intended to be watched as much as it is intended to be listened to. And so the idea here is that I will be reviewing topics that we've already gone over in pre-lessons and in class assignments. And if you are doing something else like exercising or driving someplace or washing dishes, right, where you can't necessarily watch the video, but you can listen, right? That's what this is intended for. This particular review is going to be on Unit 4, Topics 2, 3, and 4, which include photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and ATP use in cells. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants and algae and photosynthetic bacteria harness free energy available in sunlight. And they take that free energy and they store it in an organic molecule for later use. So photosynthesis uses water and carbon dioxide as the reactants. They go into the reaction. Okay? Coming out of the reaction are the sugar, which are the organic molecule where the energy is being stored, and extra oxygen that's being released into the environment. This process occurs within the chloroplast, which is the organelle responsible for photosynthesis, and it uses energy from sunlight to combine carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to form a glucose molecule. The energy from that sunlight is effectively stored in the bonds of that sugar. So the connection between the elements, carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens, is where that energy is stored. And so it's taking that energy and building up a molecule to store it in. That's what photosynthesis does. When it's time to release that energy, the process that does that is cellular respiration. So all organisms do cellular respiration, including plants and algae and photosynthetic bacteria. Okay. Cellular respiration breaks apart the sugar. Right? So those bonds that were holding the energy are ripped apart, and that energy is released. The reactants for cellular respiration are sugar and oxygen, and the products of cellular respiration are ATP, water, and carbon dioxide. This process occurs in, for the most part, the mitochondria of the cell. And effectively, it's just ripping apart the sugar to release the energy that was stored in there. That energy is then used to make ATP. So there is a direct connection between cellular respiration and photosynthesis. Most people describe it as being the reactants of one are the products of the other, which means what goes into one comes out of the other. Right? And so photosynthesis makes sugar and oxygen, and those go into cellular respiration. Cellular respiration makes carbon dioxide and water, and those go into photosynthesis. And so they're always exchanging those molecules. The energy moves through the entire system. So it starts up at the sunlight and it ends up in the ATP at the end. And that leaves us with what the ATP is actually used for. So ATP is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, the tri standing for 3, implying that this molecule has 3 phosphate groups on it. To make ATP, you start with ADP, which is diphosphate, okay, which is 2 phosphates. You just shove on that 3rd phosphate. Okay, and it stores a little bit of energy in the bond between the 2nd and 3rd phosphate. This molecule is small enough that the actual mechanics of the cell can use it. Sugar is too big for this, but ATP is just the right size. So whenever the cell needs to do work, For instance, we are now currently talking about cell transport, right? If we want to push a molecule out of the cell using a protein channel, the ATP will touch the protein channel, and that phosphate group, that third phosphate group, will be ripped off, and the energy released from that ripping is enough to do the work. And in this case, that work is pushing that molecule out. What ATP is doing across the board as a means of energy movement is it's changing the shape of the mechanisms involved. And so in this case, when ATP touches the protein channel and that phosphate group is ripped off, the protein channel changes shape. And that change in shape causes the function of whatever it is that it's doing. And so changing the shape of the protein channel pushes the molecule out. ATP is primarily used for cell division, growth and maintenance, and things like active transport for homeostasis. Any type of cellular work that needs to be done. So yeah, that's it. Photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and ATP. Audio review is over.